Hey guys, Claude Johnson here, and today I want to talk about soloing with all 12 notes. So I think this is something that a lot of intermediate guitarists want to know. Like, the question is always, how do I go, beyond the pentatonic scale? And usually they mean like beyond the minor pentatonic scale. So let's start there. Start with the minor pentatonic scale, and then we'll sort of add in the other notes. And I think it's important to think not just in terms of scales, but like actually the individual notes. When we think of scales, we usually think of like a certain shape or a certain sound, which is made up of all the notes. But it's also good to just kind of hone in and focus on individual notes, like where they, fit into the overall scheme of things, like what, which chords they work over, and so on. All right, so let's start with the minor pentatonic. Now we've got the root, obviously, so I'm in the key of A. A is the root, not much to say about that. Then we got the minor third. It's a great tension note to go back to the root. Then the fourth, which is kind of a tension note, but doesn't sound dissonant, if that makes any sense. It's a real sweet note, but it also loves to resolve back to the root. Then you got your fifth, which also has a pretty stable sound to it. And then your seventh, which would be like the flat seventh, technically. All right, so let's move beyond that. Let's start with the flat five. This is also called the blue note. Hey, real quick before we continue here, I just want to give a quick plug for my free blues course. It's called 7 Blues Guitar Secrets That Save You Years of Practice. You can get it at BluesGuitar.com/secrets, or just check the link in the video description. But I think it's really going to help you out. It's got a lot of powerful concepts and insights that took me a long time to figure out, and it's going to help you with everything you're doing, including the stuff in this video. So once again, just check the link in the description. Thanks for your support, and now back to the video. And there's a lot of different ways to use this note, which maybe I'll go over in a separate video, but I'll just give you one way right now. And by the way, this video, I'm not going to give you like every single method, concept, whatever. I'm just going to give you like what I think are some of the most important or useful ways to incorporate each of these other tones. It'd be a great starting point for you to, start using all 12 notes. Anyway, like I said, it can be a passing tone. So instead of, down the pentatonic scale, so the key of A, this note is the E flat. It's on the 6th fret of the A string. Okay, so you can go. You can use it like ascending or descending. You can also get it up here. Now, obviously, you can look at all, the whole neck, all 5 positions. Just focusing right now on just the basics, this root position here. So, sorry, that was a different note. But basically, how I'm using this is just a passing note between the 4th and the 5th degree. So adding this note to your pentatonic scale, sometimes people call that the blues scale or the minor pentatonic blues scale. You can also use it like, you can pivot off the root. Something like that. You can get that nice lick, like pinching the root at the same time. There's my 5th and then, or sorry, my 4th to flat 5th. anyway, its basic function, at least in this video, is going to be as a passing note. And I think it's pretty intuitive to use. You know, all these licks, like any blues lick that you have that involves the fourth or the fifth, you can usually add that in, find some way to work it in. So if you have a lick like this, just throw it in there, or ascending. Okay. Let's move on. The next note I want to talk about is the major third. So, again, the key of A, it's good to look at the notes that are in like an A7 chord. So you have your root, major third, fifth, and seventh. So all those notes are in the minor pentatonic scale except for the major third. But that's really like one of the essences of like the blues sound, is playing that minor third melody over an A7 tonality, okay? So, you know, you could play it separately if you were just playing, let's say, solo guitar and strumming an A7, you could play that minor third with it. But you could also use it in a line, for example, like you could use it in the lower register. It becomes like one of those walk-up type of so notice I'm using both the minor and the major third together. That's a great way to use it. But you don't necessarily have to do it that way. But you know, using those two notes together is a great way to just kind of combine. You can get like the double stops here, like sort of bar this, you know, fifth fret here, G and B strings on the fifth fret, and then hammer on with your middle finger on the sixth fret of the G string. So, but you could also use it more just in the context of like an A7 arpeggio. So this is like a real kind of basic idea, like your third degree to your fifth. Maybe you could do that and then descend down the minor pentatonic. So notice how we used both the major third to start it and then the minor third, and it wasn't necessarily together. So that's one more idea. Okay, next note I want to talk about is the sixth degree. So this is like a classic kind of blues harmony idea when you have your root fifth and then you go to your root sixth. So if you have your, you know, cliche blues shuffle, like, you know, if you actually look at the notes there, it's like obviously the root on the open A, but then you have your fifth and your sixth. But you can use that idea in lines, you know, here's your fifth and here's your sixth. So it goes great with your third degree. So, but it also works, you could just throw it in with the pentatonic. So, and there's a lot of harmony just kind of revolving around the fifth, sixth, and seventh because they're kind of like right next to the sixth. So, you know, here's your seventh, root seventh, so like root seventh, fifth, and then here's your sixth right in there. So you could combine it with licks using root and seventh. Well, I threw in the fifth. Let me try without the fifth. And then fifth, you know, you could get these two together. Nice little chordal riff there. So something like that. Let's see. Now this also reminds me of another important related topic, which is the major pentatonic scale. So sometimes when guitarists talk about pentatonic, they forget that there's more than one pentatonic scale. So there's the minor pentatonic, and then there's the major pentatonic. So if you're not familiar with that idea, one way to get it is to just move the whole thing down 3 frets. So that'll be like an F sharp minor pentatonic shape. But sort of reorient the scale so your A is the tonal center. So again, I like to kind of analyze things from an individual note point of view. So let's just look at what notes we have in the major pentatonic. So we have our root, which is the same. We have our fifth, which is the same. And then we have 3 other notes which are going to be different. So we have our root second, or you can call that a ninth as well. So that'd be a B note in the key of A. Major third, which we just talked about earlier. So we didn't talk about the scale at that time, but that is one of the notes. And then the other note is going to be, well, there's our fifth, and then F sharp, which is our 6th degree, which is the one that I was talking about. So, you know, we were just talking about this. So you could look at that as part of the, you know, major pentatonic. So that's another way to use the 6th degree. It's good to go, you know, instead of shifting down all the time, you can try to overlap it. So here's your, you know, minor pentatonic. Here's your major pentatonic. So right away, if you just combine like major and minor pentatonic, you're getting 3 extra notes. All right. Another way to look at it within that sort of context is if you go back 1 note. So from the root, if you're playing like a minor pentatonic, you're going to be going just 2 frets down to the 7th. But you can go 3 frets back, and you get that major sound by hitting the 6th. Okay, another really important use of the 6th degree is when you go to your 4 chord. So remember, in a blues, you're going to be playing like 4 bars of the 1, and then you go to your 4 chord. So when you go to your 4 chord, you want to hit that 6th degree to emphasize the 4 chord. So as an example, let's see. Right there. Back to the 1. Let's do it one more time just to illustrate the 1 chord. Here's root, third, fifth kind of riffs. 4 chord. You can see I'm hitting the 6th there. Okay. Now let's talk about the 9th degree. So we said that that's also part of the major pentatonic. So you could use it that way. So in the key of A, we're talking about the note B. You could just throw that in. There's a nice little riff. That's sort of right out of the major pentatonic because it's like 2nd and 6th down here. All right, now there's other ways you could use it. For example, the 9th is also part of your minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio off of the 3rd degree. So that this gets into like the topic of extensions. So I don't want to go too deep into this. I'll probably do a separate video. But basically, If I've got my A7 arpeggio, which I get from skipping every other note, I can keep going from the 7th up to the 9th. And I get a minor 7 flat 5 off of the C sharp, which is the 3rd. So a little bit of a jazzier sound. So you can throw that in with your normal kind of bluesy stuff, you know. You could play it up here also, like descending sounds pretty nice. So maybe start with that and then go into the like a more pentatonic sound. And let's see, another way to use the 9th is that it's the 5th degree of the 5 chord. So when you're playing a turnaround, you can hit that. So we talked earlier about hitting the 6th on the 4th. This one is a good one to hit on the 5th degree. And let's see, I'll just show you. If you're in an A blues, go into your 4 chord, back to your 1, and then here's the 5th coming up. Stevie Ray would play that all the time and milk that note. Okay. Now let's talk about the major 7th. So this is one note down from the root. So this would be like an A flat. So one way to use this would be like a passing note. And by the way, a good way to use passing notes is, let's go back to when we talked about using your major pentatonic in this position. Notice on the top 3 strings here, we have like, these notes are 2 frets apart. You can use passing tones between any of these. And even this one. This one's also in the minor pentatonic as well. But so just a real simple, it's almost a bland passing tone. Like, you know, you almost don't even really hear too much of a sound, you know, anything distinctive there. But it just kind of fits right in there. So that's one way to use it. Just adds a nice little bit of very subtle kind of sound. Another way to use it, going back to what I just said about chords, you know, on your 5 chord, the major 7th is the 3rd of the 5th. So it's like, when you use it that way, it has a much more colorful sound that you can kind of hang on that note. So there's my 3rd that, you know. So like maybe, you know, which is a little bit of a simple idea, but just to illustrate, you know. All right, let's see. Other ways to use the 7th. It's sort of interesting because I always talk about using the Mixolydian scale, like reimagining the music theory for blues as being based around the Mixolydian scale, because it's more natural to just hit that minor 7th than the major 7th, you know. So that one may sound out of place, sort of, when you're really emphasizing the minor 7th or the flat 7th. But then once you have that kind of dominant sound established, you can throw it back in. And especially up on that register, it just is a really colorful. It reminds me of like the third or the sixth, excuse me. There's my third. There's my sixth. There's my seventh. So you can kind of just throw it in as a color note there. And then one more way to use it would be like just throwing in other scales. So for example, like the harmonic minor. Which doesn't sound very bluesy necessarily, but within the blues you can just get a little like tinge of that maybe Middle Eastern sound or whatever. Or maybe a bebop sound. Just kind of just descending from the top of the scale. So those are all ways you can use the major seventh. All right, let's keep going here. We've got 2 more notes to go through, and the next one is the minor sixth. This one is not really as common as the major sixth. Like I think the major sixth is very natural. The major sixth is part of the Dorian and the mixed linear, by the way. But the minor sixth. So one way is, like I said, you can throw it in as a passing note when you're within the major pentatonic. So it's almost like a country sound. Like I noticed that the country pickers tend to use a lot of chromatic notes. So passing note between the 5 and 6. You could also use it just as like a decorator note for like the 5th, but you got to be careful because it really gives you kind of a minorish, Aeolian type of sound. So I had some licks in mind, but anyway. One way you can use it is it's the minor third of the 4th. So if you had a riff like this, like where you're really emphasizing the minor third, then you go to your 4th. Now I just happen to move the whole thing up just to make it easier to play, but you could play it here as well. But I feel like that's a very specific sound. In a lot of blues, you want to play the major arpeggio on the 4th. So you have to be a little bit careful with that one. And then the last note is maybe the trickiest one. It's the flat 9, which is just one half step up from the root. So I think it's like kind of the most dissonant sounding note. So if you have an A7, it's just it can sound like the worst note, right? But there are ways to use it. So one way is like like I said, the passing tone between the root and the 9. There's altered scales you can use, like super Locrian or something. But in terms of like altered harmony, I think one of the best ways to use it is just to throw in like an altered dominant 7 arpeggio. So basically, instead of root 3rd, 5th, 7th, you just raise the root up 1 note, which gives you a diminished arpeggio. So you could have a lick like something like that. So here you just this kind of idea. Go from your flat 9 up to your 7th, and then to your 6th. All right. So hopefully this gives you plenty of ideas and ways that you can think about using all these different notes. So if you like what you're seeing, give me a like, subscribe, comment. You can check out my stuff in the video description. Got courses on riffs and songs and all that good stuff. You can get my free course as well. So check all those links there, and we'll talk to you soon.